You guys, I'm so excited. We have a special treat for you today. Julia McCarthy. She is a psychedelic medicine facilitator and psychic intuitive. And we've been connected on Instagram for a while. And I was like, girl, I want you to get on this podcast and share all about this like psychedelic medicine facilitation that you do and what kind of experiences your clients have. So I'm so grateful that you're here.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here and excited to share all my knowledge about psychedelic medicine and really anything else that flows through our open channels right now.
Yes. So how did you get into the psychedelic medicine?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it really started for me in 2019. I was working in hospitality at a corporate job, and I just had this deep knowing that I was here to do something other than work in hospitality and corporate America, and had been sensing and feeling my psychic mediumship, intuitive gifts coming online. And then in October of 2019, I sat with ayahuasca for the first time. And after that ceremony, it really gave me the courage to quit my job. I sold everything that I owned. I was living in Denver, Colorado at that time. My now fiance and I, we bought one-way tickets to Bali, and we had planned to spend all of 2020 traveling abroad. And after I quit my job and we set out on our travels, COVID then hit. So we were rerouted back to the States about 3 months in. And during 2020, I did a lot of deep healing on myself to work through some abusive, traumatic relationships, a lot of stuff that I went through in my childhood. And I was very much working with psilocybin, so working with psychedelics to do that. And after working with them personally for a couple of years, I really felt the calling to get into the facilitation space. And my fiance, Nick, he created a company called Psychedelic Passage that is a network of highly vetted facilitation guides. So anyone that wants to have an intentional ceremony and journey, they come through Psychedelic Passage and then they're routed with one of the guides in the network.
Ooh,
So
smart.
yeah, so I really started learning under him because he had been facilitating for years before I met him. So I started shadowing him and the clients that he worked with. And then since then, it has spiraled into my own facilitation practice over the past couple of years, which has been a really fulfilling and rewarding and expansive experience so far.
Wow. So can you share with the audience what's the difference between ayahuasca and whatever you just said?
Psilocybin. So psilocybin is a mushroom,
Mhm.
which is what most people are working with, especially here in the United States. It's very easy to source. And ayahuasca is a vine, typically from the Amazon. And with ayahuasca, that's typically done in a group ceremony and setting, and it's typically done in rounds. So it's a very thick substance. It's kind of like a molasses substance that you drink, and then you typically do it in 3 or 4 rounds, and they're pretty short rounds. They're like 1 to 2 hours long. And psilocybin is of course a mushroom, and you typically only take one high dose of psilocybin for the journey, and that lasts anywhere between 4 to 6 hours. So psilocybin is definitely the one that I've worked with the most and support my clients with the most. And especially here in the States, it's super easy to source. There's a number of companies that you can order online from that are vetted and reputable. It's not like some random guy showing up on your doorstep with a bag of mushrooms and then running away. So I love how much of a teacher psilocybin is and how it can really help you get into your body and your nervous system and help your body to release anything that it's been holding on to. So whether that's trauma, addiction, anxiety, depression, PTSD, or if you're looking for more of an expansive experience to see what else is out there in the universe and open yourself up more and come back home to yourself. So it can be used for a number of different purposes and reasons, but for the most part, I've been really supporting people who want to do it to help them heal and to help them heal on a really, really deep cellular and body level.
Wow. Wow. I like that. So I have experience with like the microdosing and stuff. I know that's also
Yep.
beneficial.
Yep.
So how do your, I guess, is there a common theme that the people come to you for?
Definitely.
Okay.
So for most people, I think in general, are working through some sort of self-love and self-worth issue. And that just tends to be the general arc and theme. And that can manifest as addiction, that can manifest as anxiety, depression. It can be a manifestation of trauma that they have experienced. But my focus right now, the type of client that I'm really working on calling in and really focusing on working with, are people that want to use the medicine to help clear out any blockages that are getting in the way of them accessing and living out their true purpose in life. So people that want to use it to open themselves up and really understand the universe and the multi layers and levels that the universe has, and really just discover what their purpose is here in life. So just recently I've supported a couple of men in their 60s who are like deep in the corporate world, and God bless them for doing the work that they're doing, and they're so sweet and so wonderful, and they've come to me and they're like, I just feel like I'm here to do something other than be an insurance agent or be an attorney. And after their journeys, it's really helped them to open up that they're here to work with the earth and the world, and to really work with it in a very meaningful way, separate from their work that they're doing right now.
Yeah. I can't even express how many people have either come onto the podcast or that do listen to the podcast, or people that I just run into like at my local meetup groups that I've been having that are finding that their corporate job is not fulfilling.
Mm-hmm.
And either their life completely falls apart,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how they find this other side of themselves, or
Mm-hmm.
another girl that I've been working with too, she's like, well, how do I incorporate all this new spirituality that I have into my corporate job? Because this
Mm-hmm.
side of me feels so much fulfillment when I'm showing up, and all people that follow her are saying, wow, something's totally different about you. And she's finding this like deep, like desire to bring that into more of her life and maybe make a career out of it. But meanwhile, bringing it into her corporate job that she has now and seeing how it's benefiting her clients that are or around her when she is in that
Mm-hmm.
corporate job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I've worked with a number of people like that, and I think what is so beautiful is this can really help people connect with their heart in a way that they hadn't been able to connect before, and that can have a really beautiful ripple effect in corporate America and the jobs that they're working in, whether it's that them going back and treating their employees a little bit better than they were, or being more open and communicative during deals that they're trying to close. So it can definitely help you, whether you're working in corporate America or if you're like us and you're on the entrepreneurial path, or you're somewhere in between where you're doing both. So I think it's the sky's the limit when it comes to how this can really help people, and especially if there's deep trauma that's causing people to feel really anxious and depressed, and that's causing them to not be able to focus at work, or not be able to really work at the highest capacity that they're able to. And once they're able to move through that anxiety and depression and trauma, and they feel like their nervous system is much more stable, then they're able to do their job from a much more calm and grounded place and not be so triggered by things that happen at work. They can leave their work at home, and they feel like they can be more productive in a way that's really supportive for them and their nervous systems.
I love that you bring up the nervous system, because I feel like that is a huge component.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Mm-hmm.
I love that both of us, like, we're coming at this kind of the same monster from different directions. Most people
Mm-hmm.
that are on my podcast too, where we're all here to get these people those same results. And
Yep.
I talk a lot about trauma with like my awakening program,
Yeah.
because I'm like, if you have been going to therapy, if you're having all these experiences, then how about taking a look within and seeing what you're actually capable of, and a kind of like, when people are able to start communicating with spirit,
Mm-hmm.
they're like, oh my gosh, there's this whole other thing. Like, I'm not just here to pay bills till I die. You know what I mean?
Right, right,
So
right.
can you share with us, kind of what happens to them when they go through this experience? Is it
Mm-hmm.
different for each person?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, every person journeys differently. So before the actual day of the journey itself, there's typically 2 or 3 preparation sessions that we'll do, just helping people to get really clear on their intentions for their journey and what it is that they want to release and let go of. Because especially when you're working with psilocybin, it's a mushroom, and just like mushrooms do in nature, mushrooms break things down, they decompose things. And so that's often what psilocybin does for people, is it helps to break things down and decompose parts of yourself that are ready to be released and let go of. So we help identify what it is that they're ready to let go of. And then the day of the journey, I never have any idea what's going to happen. And everyone journeys differently. Some people have really beautiful and gentle and expansive journeys. Some people have more somatic body-based experiences where it's their nervous systems discharging, all that trauma. And that can look like crying, laughing, yawning, muscle spasms and twitching, shaking. I had a guy who was dry heaving for like half of his experience because that was just his body discharging all 60 years of the trauma that he had experienced. Some people are really quiet and they don't say a word to me at all during their journey. Some people are really talkative and are processing things out loud. And what I think is super cool is watching people basically do therapy on themselves throughout this journey, and watching them rewrite the stories that they have around things that have happened to them, and like going in and being like, oh, okay, this experience in childhood with my mom and dad, oh, I can see that from a new lens now, and I no longer have that attachment, and be like, oh, okay, I can let that go, and then just moving on to something else. Some people have just more lighter experiences. Some people have very mystical experiences. I've had experiences, especially if someone's grieving the loss of a loved one. I've had to help a couple of souls like fully cross over. I've helped people really connect with their loved one who has passed before, if that's something that they need to do, and process just any grief that they have around their passing. So journeys can go in a number of different directions. Like I said, I never know what's going to happen. I always tell my clients, like, I am going to prepare for the worst and pray for the best, and I'm here for you and whatever happens. And my role is just to hold a space that allows them to feel really safe and loved and supported through whatever comes up for them during their journey, and just to really act as like a pillar of strength and love for them as they're traversing the universe or processing some really deep grief or moving through a really beautiful and expansive experience. So they go all over the place. And like I said, I never know what I'm going to get when I get into an experience with someone.
Okay, so you keep calling it a journey. Is that like a shamanic journey, or are you just calling it that?
Yeah, it's kind of like a shamanic journey, and that's what it's referred to in the psychedelic space, because you do feel like you go on a journey where you're going out into the ethers of the universe, and you're working through a lot of stuff. Like, this is not an easy experience at all. And I always tell people, I'm like, if you're coming into this thinking that it's going to be rainbows and butterflies and a super fun time, like, you probably shouldn't do this, because especially when it's in an intentional container and you're putting a lot of intention behind it, your shit's going to come up to the surface. So you better be willing to dive deep and to take a hard look at yourself and anything that's happened to you. And that can be really exhausting for people, and that can take a lot of energy. So it does feel like they're really going on a journey with themselves and their soul, and to help their soul heal. And it feels like you're going way out there, and then when the journey comes to an end, you're coming back into your body and you're coming back onto this earth, and you're like, whoa, what just happened? Where did I just go? I'm so happy to be back in my body. So it does really feel like you're going on a quote unquote trip or a journey.
So interesting. Now, so when you're talking about helping people with addiction, is
Mhm.
this something that they go through a multiple processes, or do they really find this
Typically.
huge? Okay.
Yeah, especially with addiction. I mean, with any of this material, it's it's not a quick fix. It's not a one and done. Yes, some people do get a lot of relief from one journey and they find that that's all that they need. But especially if you're working through some really deep-seated layers of addiction or trauma, it's not fair to put the pressure on yourself, the container, or the medicine for everything to be fixed in one experience. You can definitely peel back and get through a lot of layers, but especially if there's, like I said, just those deeper levels that you're working through, it can take 2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 experiences to really work through, why am I drinking every night, or why am I smoking weed every single night, or why am I using this other substance in a way that's not supportive for me. So it can take time, and it's really important that people just give themselves a lot of grace and space and just trust their process and trust that whatever's coming up for them during their journey is exactly what they need at that time in their life. And sometimes they're not ready to work through all of those deeper layers. You have to get through the top layers first before you can really get into the deeper core of why someone is, like I said, drinking. That's typically a big one that people are working through.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. And it's interesting too, because when the people show up for you, they're ready.
Oh yeah.
They've made
Mm-hmm.
this commitment. They're like, I'm investing in this.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to show up for myself. So they're
Mm-hmm.
ready, which is
Yeah.
amazing, because nobody
Yeah.
wants to work with a client that's not ready.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, we work together for typically about a month beforehand. So it's not like I meet someone, they're like, oh, can can we do this next Saturday? I'm like, absolutely not. Like 2 weeks bare minimum before I get into a ceremonial space with you, because it's really important that they honor the sacredness of the process and they honor the sacredness of this fungi and these plants, and that they don't try to rush in. They don't come in thinking that, like I said earlier, that it's just going to fix them overnight without them putting in any work or effort or preparation into it. And I always tell my clients, I'm like, you get exactly what you put into this. So if you come into this thinking it's going to fix you overnight, you best believe after your journey you're going to be right where you were before it. But the people that spend a lot of time and energy prepping their mind, body, and soul before this, oftentimes a lot of healing happens before the journey, and then the journey is just kind of the cherry on top. And so you very much get out of it what you put into it.
So would you say this is like a coaching package that you offer then? It's like a package, and then it comes with like aftercare, I'm assuming.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
follow up.
Yeah. So typically it's 2 preparation sessions, and then the journey, which is anywhere we're spending together in person, anywhere between like 6 to 14 hours together, just depending on, yeah, it's a full
Holy
day. It's
crap.
usually one day. And then there's typically 2 integration sessions on the back end just to help integrate and make sense of everything that happened to you during your journey.
Yeah, because I'm assuming that they go away with a holy crap, I need to like integrate this, journal everything that happened, like
Mm-hmm.
probably in shock.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And people are pretty wiped out. Like, even though you're laying there for the entire time on a very comfortable mat, it really takes a toll on your body, especially if it's a big somatic experience. And even if it's not, like I've worked with people who've had like pretty gentle, beautiful experiences, and they're absolutely wiped out the next day or the next 3 days, because it's a lot on your body. So it's really important that you have time and space in your schedule just to rest and relax and recuperate afterwards, and you don't have to give a big presentation the next day or do anything really that's going to demand a lot of your energy, attention, and focus.
That is so cool. Would you say that this also helps with their psychic development then?
Sometimes it can. Yeah. If they've worked through some of the deeper layers, and I have worked with a couple of clients. I'm going to start working with a woman soon whose mediumship gifts just started to come online. So I'm really excited about that. And for personally, it helped me with my psychic development. I remember a journey that I did back in 2020. It really showed me, and my intention for the journey was like, okay, help me connect to my purpose. And it just really showed me how I have a direct line of communication between myself and the other side. And I saw all of my ancestors over there and was waving to them and connecting with them. And so after that experience, I was like, oh, okay, my gifts are real. Like, I'm not making this up. So especially if you have an inkling that you have some sort of intuitive psychic mediumship gifts, these journeys can definitely be a really beautiful confirmation for you that these are real and they're not anything that you're making up in your mind, which
Right.
is
I think almost
such a
all of
big,
my
yeah.
almost all my students are like, I think I'm crazy and I think I'm making
Uh-huh.
some stuff up. And I'm
Yeah,
like, yay,
exactly.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited that you found me.
That's how you know you're not making it up. Yeah.
Like, you're not crazy, you're not making this stuff up, right?
Mhm,
And people
mhm,
feel like they're nutbags, but yeah, there was one time that I did do some psilocybin is what you're saying, but
mhm.
not too much because I have been a little bit leery of it. But then there was like this voice talking back to me.
Mhm,
I
mhm.
was like, what
Yep,
the hell's happening? I was asking questions in my head, and then I
yep.
could hear this weird electronic voice, and it was like kind of far away, but I was like trying to hear what
Wow.
it was saying.
Mhm, mhm.
And I
Yeah.
was like, in my mind, I'm like, am I dying? I don't even know why I asked that question. And the voice was saying, you're you're always transmuting.
Mm,
You're always transforming. There's no such thing as death or whatever.
mhm,
But
mhm.
you're always transmuting or transforming or something. I was like, okay, voice, I need to go to bed now.
Yeah, that can definitely happen where it feels like you're having a conversation with an energy and spirit that's beyond words and beyond the mind. And to me, that's the energy and spirit of the mushroom, of the psilocybin itself, and really the spirit of Mother Nature, because these mushrooms grow from the ground, and I very much believe that they're coated with the wisdom and knowledge that Mother Nature has amassed over her thousands of years, really since the beginning of the creation of Earth. So it's an incredibly wise and very what's the word? Very intentional teacher in terms of what it brings up for you, what it shows you, the messages that it gives you. So I just think it's so cool that something that grows from the ground can really just help open people up in ways that traditional therapy can't, or just any other typical healing modalities that people use.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I love how you said it has all the knowledge from thousands and thousands of years. Um,
Mhm.
there was one time when I lived in Michigan that I had went outside, and for all of a sudden, for some reason, I had this knowledge about what different plants were for and what they would do to my body if I ingested them, and
Wow.
had no prior class for that, right? So
Cool.
one thing that I share like with my students is I feel like when we do develop into our abilities, we're able to like thin the wall between these other lifetimes
Mhm.
and these other
Mhm.
knowledge, which I truly believe we're living all of our lifetimes at the same time, right?
Mhm.
Um, but being able to like have the veil get thin between these other lifetimes and have knowledge like seep through. So like
Yeah.
when you're saying that you're picking up that knowledge by consuming,
Mhm. Mhm.
I think that's deep. I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. I think it just really opens you up and helps to remove any resistance that you have around being so open, and just allows you to receive all of the information that's around us, allows you to see things that I don't think we could see with our two eyes. So it's really incredible how it can be such an expander for all of your senses. Like, people smell things really vividly that aren't there in the room. People can see things that, aren't, quote unquote, aren't there in the room. They can hear things that, quote unquote, aren't there in the room. So it's magical. Honestly, that's why they call it magic mushrooms.
Yeah, no doubt, because it really is magic. Dang, I
Mhm.
think that is so cool. So would you say that it's definitely something should always be done in person?
It depends. If you are working through a lot, if you have a lot of trauma, or you have some really deep, heavy things that you're working through, I would definitely recommend having someone there for support for you, whether it's a friend or a guide or a trip sitter, or just anyone. Would not recommend that you do this alone, especially for your first time, because they can be kind of scary. These experiences can often be destabilizing for people. So, and if you don't know anything about dosage or what you're doing, just would not recommend doing it alone. If you're working in a smaller dosage, like 500 milligrams or less and you want to go out into nature just to connect with nature, I think that that can be really great. But especially if you want to do it in an intentional way, I would recommend having someone there with you, and preferably someone who has been through an experience like that, so that way they know what to expect, because you can't expect someone to lead you through an experience that they've never been through themselves.
Right.
So I do think it's really important to have some sort of support there with you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. So where can these people find you? You said you're in Oregon. Where can
Yeah.
my followers
So
find
I'm
you?
located in Bend, Oregon. You can find me through my Instagram, which is at XO Julia McCarthy, and feel free to DM me if you have any questions. And then you can also find me through the Psychedelic Passage network. So that's psychedelicpassage.com. And we have facilitators all over the country. So if you're on the East Coast, amazing. There are a couple really incredible people out there. If you're in Texas, there's some great people as well. We have a lot of facilitators in California. So it just kind of depends on where in the world you are located, but those are the two main places to find me right now.
Wow, that is so freaking cool. So what is your next thing with your business? Are you just expanding this? Is
Yeah,
this
that's
your
a good
main
question.
thing? Yeah.
The next thing that's coming through for me is I'm feeling, so I had a really beautiful experience over the summer. I did a vision quest in Colorado in July, which is a story for a whole other time, but it really brought me into my body in a way that I have never experienced before. And after that, I feel really called to work with the body in new ways. And for me, that's coming online with Pilates. So I've been doing Pilates for the past few months and absolutely love it. I'm like, where has this been my entire life? And especially as women, I just love how gentle it is on our bodies, how it really focuses on core strength and lengthening and strengthening. So I'm in the process of getting certified to become a Pilates teacher. And then I had this vision a couple weeks ago to, once my certification is complete, to offer a session, a hybrid type of session where it's like 30-ish minutes of Pilates, gentle body movement, and then 30 minutes of channeling and connecting with your body. And so I'm feeling just really called into the space. And I think similar to what you're doing right now as well, just helping people to love their bodies and just feel really comfortable in their bodies. And I think that there's such a strong link between how you feel in your bodies and how strongly your gifts can come online, and how clean and clear your body needs to be in order to fully access and activate all of the gifts that you have available. So I'm really excited to explore that and help people feel really strong and confident in their bodies, and then in turn help them feel really confident and strong in their natural intuitive psychic mediumship gifts that
Yeah.
they have.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about the body, about
Mhm.
loving your body, regardless of what it looks like, what shape, what size,
Mhm.
all that.
Mhm.
Um, because if we're not comfortable with who we are, then we're not going
Mhm.
to be manifesting what it is that we want, because those are all,
Mhm.
if you're not comfortable with who you are, there's all the blocks right there.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You're not going to get further.
Mhm.
So it's like
Mhm.
being okay with that. And the more that I do my healing work and learn all about this, it really is about getting the trauma out of the body. It really is
Yep.
about the somatic work. Um,
Mhm.
there's that
Mhm.
saying, like, what's it say? All your issues are in your tissues.
Yep. Yep.
So Pilates, yoga is great to get
Mhm.
that out and like get the body moving while you're doing the breath work, and it just
Mhm.
clears so much out. But yeah, isn't it interesting like how our businesses like flow, right? I'm still like singing my psychic mediumship development song, and I will
Mhm.
never stop singing that. But on the
Mhm.
flip side, it's like, hey, like, love your body, like, go through the grief, like, right? Like, I wouldn't be who I am today if my husband hadn't have died, you know?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I had to grow through all of that and learn about my health, about my body,
Yeah.
about, getting pissed off because the medical community wasn't, failed
Right.
him in a way. But
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
yeah, all getting back into the body and all the stuff with Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm pretty sure you know who he is, right? He's always
Mhm.
talking about getting in the body, getting in the body. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. A couple people that I've been in conversation with that are on similar paths as you and I, a lot of people are being called into body work right now. So I think it's also a collective theme that's happening, which I think is really cool. And I think like for me personally, like I spent so much time up here in the other dimensions and channeling and whatnot, and now it's like, okay, let's come back down to earth. Like let's be in the body and have a really beautiful and solid balance between those two aspects of ourselves, and really be able to walk in both worlds, both in the, you know, the spirit world and then also in this earth realm as well. So I think it's, and there's so many directions that you can go with body work and whatnot. So it's really cool just to see how different people are being called into different aspects of body work at this time.
Yeah, I love that you said it's probably the collective. It probably is. You start
Mm-hmm.
seeing everybody else talking about something similar, just doing it in their own flavor and their own way. And you're
Yep.
like, oh, I guess we were being called to do
Yep.
this work.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, you remind me so much of myself as well. I'm about to relaunch my one-on-one spirit mentorship to help people connect with their psychic, intuitive, and mediumship gifts. And like you said, that's a song I'll always be singing for the rest of my life. And it's just, I think when you're really committed to following your purpose, like it unfolds one layer at a time. And that's not just one thing that we're here to do. There's a lot of us are very multi-dimensional, and so just really embracing your multi-dimensional self and integrating all of these pieces that want to come through. And I got this message last week. Yeah, last week I was sitting in ceremony with a woman, and I got this message from spirit, and it's just like, okay, you've like accomplished this medicine mission, like it's fully integrated in your body. And of course, there's always more for me to learn, but it's like kind of like mission accomplished energy. And now it's time for the next aspect and next layer of your work to come through. So I think it's really cool to be on a path like this.
It really is. And I love talking to you because you're just so like calm and collective and grounded about it, that it's like people are just magnetized to you. You know what I mean? You're
Mhm.
manifesting all these clients to come to you because you're just sitting in that solid energy. This is what I'm freaking here to do. And
Mhm.
people want to feel that confidence. And a lot of times, like I share with my clients too, it's like, you're not necessarily buying my program. You're buying what I feel like to you.
Mhm.
You're buying
Yeah.
what I feel like to you because you want to have the same feeling. And so let's do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, I think the energy that we embody is just, it's such a magnet for the clients that we work with. And when I first started doing my facilitation work, I was in a pretty dark place in life. Like I had just come out of a really dark, depressive, like borderline suicidal chapter. And lo and behold, those were the clients that I was attracting, and that I was being really guided to support. And now that that's very far behind me at this point, and I'm in a much more stable and expansive place, I'm attracting clients that are really typically in a state of transition in their lives, or really ready to unlock their gifts or connect with their body and just really see what the next chapter of their purpose has in store for them.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's true. The clients that we attract are a reflection of what we're growing through too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I love it.
Mhm.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Well, I can't thank you enough for being on here and answering all these
Yeah.
questions about
Um,
this. Think about think about the ripple effect. People are going to listen to this and they're going to go running to the one website, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe they finally made the decision because they were scared to try this
Mhm.
medicine. Maybe they're finally making the decision like, wow, this is something I want, this transformation. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. This is so fun chatting with you and connecting with you. Like I said, it feels like it was a long time coming for us.
Yeah, perfect time, divine timing though.
Always, always.
All right. I love it. All right. Awesome.